Spencer, one of the articles of all time came out, this one that I read in the Salt Lake Tribune about Arizona fan.
I bet people will keep finding that line funny if you use it a fifth time on today's show, too.
Who shouted, F the Mormons. Jake Retzlaff has spoken out about this. We've seen it in football. We've seen it in basketball. It's become a pretty consistent thing over the last couple of years, and no one has really been reprimanded for it. And then an article comes out in the Tribune. This is from Gordon Munson, who says, let them do it. The title says, on second thought, if fans want to chant obscenities at BYU games, let them, because ultimately he makes the point that it kind of grows the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints faith. He's written on multiple occasions. It's a bad thing, but what if they just do it and then BYU takes it off the chin and you kind of move on and you've been screaming vulgarities out in the past? At what point, if you're the Big 12 Conference, for you as a national analyst, do you step in and fine a university for this?
Well, punishment is difficult.
Okay.
Because if you want to hold individuals accountable, the individuals that are actually saying the chant, that's really hard to do. Hey, we had your ticket scanned in at the game. Were you a part of the chant that we're looking to suspend people over? Not me. I was on the other side. You like that gets very dicey. Hey, look at this security cam footage. That looks like it was you, Jimmy. No, I don't think so. That's not so. I don't know how you go there, right? Like punishing individuals, not a very easy thing easier to do in the moment, probably, than after the fact. But then if you want to go to the next level as the Big 12 Conference and say, well, we want to hold the school accountable for the actions, who in the athletic department directed them to do this chant? Do we think any administrator would say, hey, guys, go out there and say this stuff? No, it's just college kids going out there and trying to get a rise out of their opponent. And the article you mentioned is interesting. Because
can I read another quote from it, please?
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Because if that's one extreme of, hey, it's bad, but how do we police it? Here's an extreme that I'm just not sure where it comes from. Munson writes, go ahead and put a potted plant on it then. Put a trophy on it. Don't get offended by or complain about it. Wear it like a badge of honor. Nobody else gets that kind of special treatment. Nobody yells that kind of thing if they aren't threatened by them because they win a lot more than they lose. It's a compliment. Let it be. That's
I don't know if it's a compliment.
Earlier this week, I spoke on how the Big 12 should at least publicly reprimand, say, hey, this isn't something we don't condone. It's religious discrimination. It's if we said F the Catholics, or as Jake Retzlaff put it, if someone said F the Jews at a game he was playing in, that's automatically, there's a fine. There's something there. There's some sort of reprimand. The Big 12 does nothing. And the fact that the Salt Lake City Tribune, one of the writers was like, you know what? More. Double it. Keep going.
Yeah. And man, the difference between, how we're looking at this through a lens of religion versus if this was race, for instance. Mm-hmm. No way that piece gets written. But
sure. And no way there's not a fine. We talk about how do you police it, but at that point
you have to. The answer is you have to police it in real time.
Ooh,
it has to be. If you're the Big 12, you can come out and make a statement and whatnot. Okay,
but the 68
you can do. Hold on. You have to go to the school where this happens and say, hey, you need to have the administrators there who can shut that down. That go to the students immediately and say, hey, no, knock it off. We're not doing that. Because like I said, you can't do it after the fact. So anything, if you feel like the Big 12 should do one thing or another thing, you're of course entitled to feel that way. Hey, they need to act. They need to shut this down. What is it the Big 12 is going to do? Are you going to just keep students out of games? Not let them go because they could start a chant like that? I mean, this was, this happened at Arizona. I know. Has there been another instance of it?
Yeah, Providence in basketball this season, and then in football it was Kansas in their
right.
Their
so if it's happening at all different sorts of spots, and they clearly are doing it to try to get under your skin, look. If you can sit there and take it and you're okay with it, I'm not a member of the LDS Church, so I'm not going to speak for them here. But if you're able, I understand where that piece is coming from. I do think that it opens the door towards escalation. And I think what you should be trying to do now is try to de-escalate and take that sort of chant out, right? Because if you encourage it, not only will it become more frequent, but it already escalated from this never happened or not regularly to now we see it regularly. Well, what's to stop it from taking another step forward where it gets more personal, where it gets more vitriol, and suddenly guys can get into fights when they feel attacked or threatened in a hostile environment like that. That's where I think the Big 12 should want to be wary.
Can I push back a bit on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I would, no matter what here. And it was an Oregon
I was going to say,
game.
it's your show.
Actually, an F the Mormons chant broke out in an Oregon game. NBC picked it up. Kansas, there was a report that Kansas fans tried. It was shut down pretty quickly. That, yes, however, throwing trash on the field. In post, we can go back and say, hey, that was bad. Your school was fined $25,000. From there, $50,000. Or rushing the field. In post, the fine is assessed to the point where Missouri's basketball coach, Dennis Gates, grabs a microphone at a game and says, don't rush the floor. We're broke. We can't afford it. Please don't rush the floor. If there's reprimand after an action takes place, at that point, you can then have a punishment knowing, hey, if our students do this, we're charged $50,000. Now, it's you as the administrator. You mentioned the administrator is taking onus on this one. Now, you as the administrator ensure it does not happen.
I see that angle. I think the fines might need to be more punitive. The revenue, even for Big 12 schools, is in what, the $80 to $100 million range, somewhere around there. Like
a lot of the millions, yes.
Yeah, a lot of the millions.
But if you're Missouri's head basketball coach, you beg your fans not to chant because you're poor and need it for NIL.
Right, but so the difficulty with enforcement earlier that I was referring to was getting specific down to like, hey, who's starting the chant?
Okay,
or who's participating in the chant. That can only happen in real time. After the fact, I agree. That could have a useful enforcement mechanism. I think you need to make it really severe. If you want administrators to act, like $50,000 feels like a slap on the wrist.
Maybe
$200,000. $200,000 if we hear that check. $500,000. Why not? If you feel strongly about it, and certainly, I think you should, if you feel like this is coming from a place of hatred where things can escalate and get out of hands, then slap a $500,000 fine on there and see if it comes up again. Because the trash on the field at the Texas game is a great example. That was a horrific display from the Texas fans. Absolutely horrible. And that the officials acquiesced to what they wanted is even worse. It is absolutely worse. But when I first saw it, I thought, boy, I don't want that to catch on. And I don't think we should want chants like this to catch on. I'm all for getting under opponent's skin. You want to, throw a jab, do a little digging and whatnot. Go for it. There are lines. This feels like a line that you don't cross. And
Tennessee fined $250,000 for throwing trash on the field. So the Texas one was like, I'll give you a free pass for this one. But the Tennessee, remember the Tennessee one, the Lane Kiffin one? Mm-hmm. That was $250,000. We haven't seen Tennessee fans do it again.
So show you're serious. $500,000.
Yeah. No more religious discrimination.
Turns out that that's not a good thing. Wild concept, I know.
You're telling me this for the first time.
What is on your hands, by the way?
I've been painting all day. I got bit by a dog earlier. There's paint in my hair. There's paint on my hat. I've been primering, not even painting.
You look like a mess.
I am a mess. I also dropped a bunch of bottled Miller Lights on the concrete. They got eaten by sand gnats. My car ran out of the battery went dead. I had to go do the O'Reilly deal. Or one of those places, one of the auto parts places.
And just find someone to jump your car.
They dumped it, but then you have to drive to the store and get the battery thing to go. Yep.
Right.
Where can people find your work?
On YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On College Football and Locked On Ducks as well. I'm an Oregon guy. If you didn't know, sue me.
This has been It Always Will Be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.
Spanish.